Title: She Picked the Wrong Taxi That Night. In the heart of London, where lights never go out and strangers cross paths every second, one young woman made a choice that would change everything. It wasn't the drink, the hour, or the weather that sealed her fate. It was a taxi. And in that moment, she picked the wrong one. Welcome to the Pulse of Truth, where every story reminds you to trust your instincts.
The Night She Vanished, London, December 12th, 2003. The city was still dressed in its festive best. Oxford Street shimmered with Christmas lights, and the evening air carried the mixed scent of roasted chestnuts and car exhaust. The streets buzzed with the usual December chaos, shoppers clutching bags, couples rushing to dinner, and the occasional black cab crawling through traffic with its yellow light gleaming like a promise of safety. Among the moving crowd was Emily Carter, 27, a graphic designer with a gentle smile and a life that seemed perfectly ordinary. She'd stayed late at her firm in Soho, finalizing a last-minute project before the office closed for the holidays. Her colleagues had already left for the pub, texting her to come celebrate the end of the year. At 10:47 p.m., she finally shut her laptop, grabbed her scarf, and stepped into the cold. Her breath fogged in front of her as she looked up and down Dean Street for a cab. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend. "You safe? Don't walk alone. It's freezing." Emily smiled. Typed back, "Grabbing a taxi now. See you soon." That was the last message she ever sent. A black cab rolled to a slow stop beside her. Older model, slightly dented, but otherwise unremarkable. The driver leaned out. "Where to, love?" "Camden," Emily said, tugging her coat tighter. "Hop in?" "Been out late, have you?" he asked, as she slid into the back seat. She nodded, distracted by her phone. The car smelled faintly of stale coffee and air freshener. A London radio station played softly, some talk about traffic delays near Tower Bridge. Nothing unusual. But as the car pulled away from the curb, Emily noticed something. The meter wasn't running. She leaned forward. "Sorry, did you—" "Don't worry, love. Flat rate tonight. Road's a murder." Something about his tone unsettled her. Calm, but cold. She almost said something, but the thought passed. It was late. She was tired. It was just a cab ride. Sometimes, danger doesn't shout, it whispers. And when it does, it sounds a lot like reason. CCTV footage later showed that cab driving north through Fitzrovia, then turning toward Regent's Park. After that, nothing. The cab never reached Camden. Emily Carter never made it home. Her disappearance sparked one of London's most puzzling investigations of the decade. Detectives searched for the missing taxi, interviewed dozens of drivers, and scoured every CCTV feed they could access. But in 2003, not all streets were covered. Within a month, the trail went cold. Fast forward. London, 2023. 20 years later, Clara Jennings, 45, investigative journalist for the Pulse Weekly, sat in her small flat overlooking the Thames, staring at an email that simply read, "You don't know me, but I know what happened to Emily Carter. The truth was buried deeper than anyone thinks. No name, no signature, just a timestamp. 1:17 a.m. Clara leaned back in her chair, heart thudding. She'd spent years chasing cold cases for her column Buried Truths. But this Emily Carter, struck a chord. She remembered it vividly from her student days. The posters, the news, the haunting photo of a woman with warm eyes and a winter coat, captioned, "Missing. Last seen in Soho." Clara whispered to herself, "Why now?" Outside, the city glowed like a living organism. The hum of the trains, the chatter of late-night walkers, and the same cold wind that had carried Emily's last breath 20 decades earlier. She didn't yet know it, But that email would pull her into the darkest corners of London, the forgotten alleys, the corrupt underbelly of the transport network, and the secrets that people had killed to protect. A missing woman, a nameless informant, and a journalist who refuses to let the past stay buried. But in London, every answer comes with a price. Stay tuned, because what Clara uncovers next will make you question how well you really know the streets you trust.
The email with no name. Every secret has a sender, but when the message arrives without a name, the real question is, who's watching you read it? The clue that shouldn't exist. Clara Jennings hadn't slept. The anonymous email burned on her laptop screen like a whisper she couldn't silence. She checked the metadata. No IP trace, no identifiable sender, only a generic relay route through an encrypted mail server. Someone had gone to serious lengths to stay hidden. She stared at the single line again. You don't know me, but I know what happened to Emily Carter. Emily Carter. A name that had haunted the city for 20 years. A name that had faded from headlines but never from the collective unease of Londoners who still, even now, double-checked the license plate before stepping into a cab. Clara reached for her notepad and scribbled the date. 12 December 2023, exactly 20 years to the day since Emily vanished. That timing couldn't be coincidence. She glanced at the wall above her desk, cluttered with old clippings and faded Polaroids from previous investigations. Missing bankers, silent witnesses, a retired detective whose guilt had eaten him alive. Now, a new photo joined the collage, a printout of Emily's face. Clara muttered under her breath, "All right, Emily. Let's see what they buried." Ghosts of Soho. The next morning, the winter sun limped weakly through low clouds as Clara took the tube to Soho. Even after 2 decades, she could still feel the city's pulse, fast, loud, never stopping to breathe. She found herself outside the old Stone & Finch design studio where Emily had worked. The building was now a trendy co-working space with glass doors and a neon sign that read, "Create, Collaborate, Conquer." Clara flashed her press card at the receptionist. Clara Jennings, Pulse Weekly. I'm looking into an old case. Emily Carter worked here back in 2003. The young receptionist frowned, typing. That's before my time. But you can talk to our operations manager, Mr. Barlow. He's been around since forever. Barlow turned out to be a tall, silver-haired man in his 60s, his suit a little too tight and his voice a little too cautious. When Clara mentioned Emily's name, he hesitated. That was, a sad thing. I remember the police coming by. Everyone was shocked. She was a sweet girl, reliable, quiet. Did she seem worried about anything before she disappeared? Barlow adjusted his tie. Not that I recall, but she had a phone call that night, right before she left. I think she argued with someone. Do you know who? He shook his head. She didn't say, but I remember she looked pale when she hung up, almost like she'd seen a ghost. The street where it happened. Clara walked to Dean Street, where Emily was last seen. The place looked different now. New restaurants, modern streetlights, a busier crowd. But the bones of the street were the same. She stood near the corner where Emily had waved for a taxi. A CCTV camera loomed above, sleek and modern. Too modern. The original footage from 2003 was grainy, and most of it lost in a hard drive failure years later. Convenient. Clara took a slow breath. Trust your instincts, she reminded herself, the same mantra she ended every article with. Something about the timeline felt wrong. If Emily had argued on the phone before leaving, who was on the other end? And why, 20 years later, is someone finally talking? As she was jotting notes, her phone vibrated. Unknown number, no caller ID. She hesitated, then answered. Clara Jennings? A distorted male voice. You're looking in the wrong place. Who is this? The cab wasn't black. Click. The line went dead. The photograph. That night, Clara returned to her flat, replaying the words in her mind. The cab wasn't black. Every report, every witness, every police statement
The Observer and start becoming the next name on it. The police arrived within minutes of the shattered window. Clara told them it was a threat linked to her investigation, but the officers exchanged that practiced glance, the one that says, "Reporter exaggerating." They took a statement, swept the glass, and left her with a hollow warning. "Maybe step back from this one, Miss Jennings. Some ghosts don't like attention." Barlow didn't speak again that night. He sat trembling behind his desk, sweat dotting his collar. When she tried to ask more, he just repeated, "I didn't drive that night. I didn't." Then he did something she didn't expect. He handed her a flash drive. "If you really want to know, look at this. But once you see it, you can't unsee it." The flash drive. At home, Clara dimmed the lights and opened the drive on her laptop. Inside, one file. fleetrecords.xls. The spreadsheet was primitive, 2003-era formatting, rows of data in cold Courier font. Each line contained a name, a date, a pickup point, and a status. Most entries read, "Complete." She scrolled. Hundreds of rows. Then she stopped. Carter, Emily, 12/12/2003. Dean Street, Soho. Status, reassigned? She muttered. Her stomach twisted as she realized other names had the same note. Then, farther down, she saw new names, dated after 2003, stretching all the way to 2018. That was 15 years of disappearances, all under the Crown Fleet. She started pulling random names and searching them online. Some she found, people who'd been reported missing, most unsolved. Others had no trace at all. But then one name froze her, Rebecca Whitby, the daughter of retired Inspector Alan Whitby, the same man who'd warned her to stop
The call. Clara dialed Whitby immediately. He answered on the third ring, his voice tired. "Rebecca, she disappeared, didn't she?" Clara asked. A long silence. Then, "How do you know that name?" "I saw the file. She was one of them." He exhaled shakily. "That was my punishment. I started asking too many questions about the fleet after Emily Carter vanished. They wanted leverage." Clara swallowed hard. "You mean they took her?" "I was told if I kept quiet, they'd let her go. I did, but she never came home." His voice cracked. "They weren't drivers, Miss Jennings. They were cleaners. They cleaned up people's problems, for money, for power, for whoever wanted something erased." The warehouse. Clara needed proof, something physical, something the police couldn't ignore. One of the locations on the spreadsheet listed drop-off coordinates in South Docklands, an old industrial area by the river. That night, she went. The warehouses there were half abandoned, shadows stretching long under the flickering streetlights. She found the one from the list, number 47. Padlocked, but the chain was rusted. She slipped through. Inside, it smelled of petrol and dust. Rows of old car parts lined the walls, meters, doors, taxi signage. She ran her flashlight along the floor and froze. There were license plates, dozens of them, stacked in boxes, all starting with C17, each with a date sticker underneath, and beside them, a folder sealed in plastic. The Crown Fleet, maintenance and rotation log. Inside were photos, victims, passengers, each marked with the same red stamp. Reassigned. Her heart pounded. This wasn't just about Emily anymore. It was an entire network of abductions, 2 decades deep. The chase. As she turned to leave, she heard footsteps. "Looking for something?" a man's voice said. She spun. A silhouette stood in the doorway. The same polite, clean-cut figure the scrapyard foreman had described. "I'm just a journalist," Clara said carefully. "I know who you are," the man replied, stepping closer. His accent was London-born, his expression calm, disturbingly calm. He reached into his coat. Clara bolted. She ran through the aisles, ducking between metal parts, knocking over crates as she went.
Her phone buzzed. She hit the flashlight app, weaving toward the rear exit. The man's footsteps echoed closer. Then, a click. Gunmetal flashed under the dim lights. She threw herself behind a car shell as a silenced shot rang out, hitting the wall. Another. She spotted a door, emergency exit, rusted but reachable. She sprinted, slammed her shoulder into it, and burst out into the freezing night. Behind her, tires screeched. She didn't look back. She ran until her lungs burned and the sound of the river drowned everything else. The safe house. She spent the night at a small hotel under a fake name. At dawn, she sent the entire Crown Fleet file to 3 trusted colleagues at Pulse Weekly, along with a note: "If anything happens to me, publish this. Every name, every proof." Then she texted Whitby, "I found them. Your daughter's name was on the list. They're still operating." He replied with just one sentence: "Then finish what I couldn't." Clara looked out the window as London awoke beneath a pale sky. She was terrified, but she also knew something else. If she stopped now, Emily Carter would stay a ghost forever. The list was never supposed to see daylight, but once a truth this dark starts moving, it doesn't stop. Not until someone pays the fare. The man behind the wheel. Every case has a driver, the one who took the wheel and never let go. But when you finally find him, the road to justice becomes a race between truth and survival. Back to the beginning. By sunrise, Clara knew what she had to do. If she wanted to uncover the man behind Emily Carter's disappearance, she needed to retrace the journey. Literally, Dean Street, the point of origin. Camden, the supposed destination. 20 years had passed, but some routes never changed. She booked a black cab, sat in the back seat, and quietly filmed the ride on her phone. "Mind if I ask how long you've been driving in London?" she asked the driver. "Since '98. Seen it all. Though back then, not all the cabs were real." She ears pricked up. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "Some blokes faked the plates, the meters, everything. Looked proper black cabs, but weren't licensed. Police cracked down in the 2000s, but for a while, anyone could pose as a driver. It was chaos. That was the word. Emily Carter had stepped into chaos and never stepped out. The recordings. Back at her flat, she replayed the warehouse footage from her hidden camera. Frame by frame, she froze an image of the man who had chased her. The grain was poor, but his face was just visible enough to match something in the background searches she ran through Pulse Weekly's database. Within minutes, a match hit. Name: Colin Ricks. Occupation: former Met Police Transport Division, discharged 2004. Reason: misconduct and evidence tampering. She read the attached note. He'd worked as an investigator on Emily Carter's case. Clara whispered, "You were supposed to solve it, not drive it." The visit. She found his address through a recent property registration, a flat in Greenwich overlooking the river. The building was old but expensive, guarded by key-coded doors. She slipped in when a tenant exited. She found door 4C, knocked once. No answer. She tried again. This time, the lock clicked, not from inside, but automatically, as if already broken. She pushed the door open. Inside was silence. Heavy. Deliberate. The air was thick with the smell of stale alcohol and decay. Then she saw him. Colin Ricks sat slumped in a chair by the window, with a half-empty whiskey bottle on the table and a gun on the floor. A dark stain marked the carpet beneath him. He was dead. The note. Beside him lay an envelope addressed simply, "For whoever still cares." Clara slipped on gloves and opened it. Inside was a confession letter, handwritten, trembling lines on lined paper. "My name is Colin Ricks. I drove her that night. Not by choice, by order. They told me it was just a pickup, a message job. They said she was selling company secrets. I didn't know until too late. She was crying in the back seat. I told her it was fine. It wasn't. When we reached South Docklands, a van was waiting. They took her. They told me to keep quiet or end up the same. I did. But she never came home. At the bottom, he'd scrolled 3 words. Ask Barlow why. The trap. Clara drove straight to Stone and Finch. She found Barlow already waiting in his office, as if he'd known she was coming. You knew, she said, slamming the letter down. Barlow's expression was hollow. I didn't know she'd die. Then what did you know? He leaned back, voice trembling. Emily discovered what our firm was really doing. We weren't just designing adverts, we were laundering money for the fleet. She found files on our servers and threatened to go public. I tried to protect her. I called in a favor with a friend in the police. I didn't know that friend was Rick's, so you sent her straight to them, Clara said coldly. They said they'd just scare her. I swear to God. Scare her? They killed her. He covered his face. I've lived with that every day. Clara's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You finally found the driver. Now find where she is. Attached, a single GPS coordinate. Barlow looked up, fear flooding his eyes. Don't go, please. They're not done. But she was already walking out the door. The field. The coordinates led her to an abandoned lot near the Thames barrier, fenced, overgrown, forgotten. She stepped through the gate, the cold wind cutting across the grass. In the center of the field stood a solitary lamppost, unlit, rusted. At its base, she noticed disturbed earth. Someone had dug there before, recently. She knelt and brushed away the soil. Something metallic glinted under her flashlight. It was a locket. Inside, a photograph of Emily Carter and her younger brother, smiling at a carnival. She pressed the locket to her chest, trembling. The ground beneath it told the rest of the story. Shallow, rushed, covered in weeds. She called Detective Alton from the Met, an old source. Bring a team.
You're going to want to see this. The broadcast. 2 weeks later, the Pulse Weekly released Clara's expose, The Crown Fleet, London's hidden network of disappearances. It hit every news outlet within hours. The Met reopened multiple cold cases, including Emily Carter's. Barlow was arrested. Former officers named in the files were investigated. But the piece didn't end with triumph. It ended with a question. How many times have we trusted a stranger because they wore the right uniform? How many times have we ignored that small voice inside that said something was wrong? Clara's closing narration echoed across millions of screens. Trust your instincts, because sometimes safety isn't in the car you take, it's in the voice that tells you not to get in. The final scene. Months later, Clara visited Emily's newly marked grave at Highgate Cemetery. She placed the locket on the stone and whispered, "You're home now." Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She hesitated, then answered. A familiar, distorted voice said softly, "You've done well, Miss Jennings, but you never asked the right question." "What question?" she demanded. The line went silent. Then a whisper. "Who sent you that first email?" The call ended. Clara stood in the cold, realization washing over her. The truth was bigger than she thought. The first email that started it all had never been traced. And somewhere in London, someone was still watching. Justice came, but at a cost. Because in this city, truth doesn't end when the story does. It lingers in the streets, waiting for the next voice brave enough to chase it. This has been The Pulse of Truth, reminding you, trust your instincts, because one wrong ride can change everything. Epilogue. the echoes of Dean Street. Some stories end when justice is served. Others echo long after the headlines fade. Because truth, real truth, doesn't just live in police files. It lives in the people brave enough to keep asking why. 1 year later, London, December 12, 2024. Exactly 21 years since Emily Carter vanished. The city had changed. Glass towers where brick buildings once stood, silent electric cars replacing the roar of diesel cabs. But Dean Street still looked the same at night, glistening from rain, humming with laughter, alive with possibility and danger all at once. Clara Jennings stood there now, coat buttoned up, camera crew behind her. She was filming the final scene of her documentary. She picked the wrong taxi that night. The truth London forgot. The same spot where Emily last stood, under the same streetlight that flickered softly in the winter mist. She looked into the lens. "People ask me why I still come here," she began, voice steady but full of weight. "Because this is where trust was betrayed. This is where a woman's instinct told her something was wrong, and the world taught her to ignore it." She paused, turning to the passing taxis, black, sleek, harmless looking. Emily's story isn't just about fear, it's about awareness. It's about every person who's ever felt that quiet voice in their chest whispering, "Something's off." Listen to it. It might save your life. A quiet visit. After the cameras cut, Clara walked alone toward Highgate Cemetery. Snow had started to fall, slow, soft flakes glowing in the orange streetlight. She brushed snow from Emily Carter's gravestone. Someone had already been there. A single white rose lay across the marble, fresh, left that morning. Attached was a folded note. She opened it, heart pounding. It read, "Some deaths never vanish. Some voices never fade. A friend." She looked around the empty cemetery. No one. Just the whisper of wind through the bare trees. She placed the note back, smiled faintly, and whispered, "Thank you."
The broadcast? That evening, the Pulse Weekly aired her closing monologue to millions of viewers worldwide. It wasn't flashy, it was raw, real. The kind of ending that left silence in its wake. Clara's voice played over slow footage of the Thames at night. We tell ourselves London is safe, but safety isn't about CCTV or lights on every corner. It's about intuition, about paying attention to the moments that don't feel right. Emily Carter's story reminds us that monsters don't always hide in shadows. Sometimes they sit behind the wheel, smiling. So if your heart ever tells you to walk away, walk. Don't explain, don't apologize, just go. Because your instincts are the oldest truth you have, the final revelation. After the broadcast, Clara returned to her office to find one last envelope on her desk. No name, no stamp, just like before. Inside was a photograph, grainy, black and white. It showed Emily standing beside a cab moments before she vanished. In the corner of the image, barely visible, stood another figure, watching. Not the driver, someone else. On the back of the photo, a message in faint ink. The first email came from me. The story isn't over. Clara stared at the picture for a long time. Then, slowly, she smiled. Because for her, the chase was never over. And as long as London kept its secrets, she'd be there to uncover them. I'm Clara Jennings, and this was The Pulse of Truth. If this story made you think, feel, or remember to trust your instincts, subscribe, because the truth never sleeps, and neither do we.
See you in my next post. Stay active. Thank you for watching.